Welcome to the Be Well Now Method podcast. I am Janet Holtz, and my guest and dear friend, Dr. Jan Anderson, is here today. You all know her and love her. I know you do because I hear it from you. So we have such a fun episode and kind of an insightful episode that we had this aha when we were talking, just chit-chatting about something. And it's called The Blind Spot of Success. And I'm guessing that even just hearing that, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But it's when you're seeing external success measured externally, but you might be missing the internal cues that you've actually been on a detour of true success. So Dr. Jan and I are going to talk about that today, and she's going to share her insights as a psychologist and all around amazing person with that. So we were joking, right? Well, anyway, fun episode. But as you know, this is the Be Well Now method, which is about you. And this is not about us telling you what to do. This is a time for you to listen to what you know inside, because that's what it means to be well now. So we start with a little meditation, a little centering, so that as you're listening to what we're talking about, and as you know that we're sharing, we're doing it from a place of internal guidance so that you can listen and we can talk from that place. So we're just going to start with a little exhale, close our eyes, kind of let our bodies settle into a position where we're present. And feel your breath moving in and out, remembering that this kindness is flowing inside. Your body is taking care of you. And let that breath bring you into this internal wisdom, this center of your body that has information that is very valuable but easy to miss. So just let your breath bring you into this center. And let your breath maybe slow down a little bit. Just allowing it to take care of you without trying to make something happen. Move into this whole person position of trusting what's here now as your guide. So as you expand your awareness to your body, you might notice there's some tension energy or some even excitement energy or some kind of energy in your body, whether that's low or high or somewhere in between. That energy wants to turn into movement. So let it turn into some movement, whether that's just a gentle touch or massage or a big full body stretch. Trust that energy to turn into movement. Let that movement be part of just taking care of yourself, letting your body take care of you. And then let your body come back to stillness. Just notice this whole person connection that just happened when you listened to what you knew inside and you trusted your body to take care of you. So continue that as you gently open your eyes, bring your attention back to the conversation and allow yourself to listen from this place of really open to seeing that blind spot so you can have a more whole person approach to being healthy. So Dr. Jan, I'd love to hear what comes up for you when we talk about this blind spot. What has been your experience with shining a light on that blind spot of success?
Yeah, I would say one of the blind spots for me in my journey with GLP-1s has been by the time I started using GLP-1s,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not diabetic. This was for weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that by the time you can start doing something like that, or say have a surgery, you're so desperate to get the weight off because you've been trying everything you know.
Yeah.
And I think that in my desperation to get the weight off, that um, I got, well, there's various things that happened, but one of the things is getting, uh, it's not like I've been really bad about weighing myself or not weighing myself or getting terribly caught up in that. But of course, you have to weigh yourself to when you start using these drugs. It's just you need to, or you need to have
Yeah.
some kind of baseline or somewhere where you are. But I think one of those blind spots for me is getting, oh my goodness, realizing I've gotten once again over focused on
Mm.
the number, the scale,
Mm.
and that's That's very hard not to do. It's a huge issue. I know for anyone that talks about having an eating disorder,
Mhm.
and that weigh or not weigh
Yeah.
in the scale. So I guess what I would say is I've just come to accept that
Mm,
that's going to be there.
mm,
I don't know if you can stop it, but I don't think it has to stop your progress either. And
mm,
what I mean by that is like realizing like, oh, okay, you're over focused. It's like meditation. Your mind
yeah,
wandered. Get back to, okay, what's really important here? It's ultimately not the number. And I'd say my journey is learning to trust that more and more, to
mm,
care less and less what the number is, but
mm,
more how am I feeling? How am I moving? How am I feeling in my body? How am
yeah,
I moving?
yeah,
How are my clothes feeling?
mm,
That would be getting back to what you would call the true focus,
yeah.
the
So the
true
scale
measurement.
so the scale creates this blind spot for you in that it almost like it hijacks your brain, and that's what happens in the stress state. Like we're so focused on trying to get somewhere else that we miss what's here now in our body and our heart and what's most important, and our brain just takes over and we get
Yeah.
hyper focused. So it sounds like the scale really does that for you, and I'm so, because I would imagine a lot of people understand that. I know I do, and every patient and client I talk to has that. And and so how what do you do to shine a light on that blind spot that the scale automatically causes for you, that hijacking that the scale does? What lets you see that?
Yeah, and I love the way you're putting that. It does hijack you.
Mm,
Again, just like your mind wanders during meditation, you
mm,
notice that, oh, okay. And then you don't waste a whole lot of time
yeah,
beating yourself up about the fact your mind wandered. That's what your mind does. So
yeah,
don't waste time beating yourself up. Just, oh, okay, my mind wandered. I want to come back now,
yeah,
to the here and now. And I guess that scale would be kind of a certain thing that distracted me.
mm,
Okay, that's just what happens. Is
yeah,
don't get too upset about, you did that. Just get back to what really matters.
mm,
And I guess the other thing I'd add is, so I'm just careful to not weigh myself very often.
mm,
Um,
yeah,
because again, if you know that, if you know it's kind of triggering or not
right,
helpful, it gets you off.
yeah,
Okay, well, you don't have to weigh yourself every day.
yeah, yeah,
Just weigh yourself the minimum amount of times that you need to know what's happening
mm,
from a weight standpoint. And
yeah.
then, of course, the other thing, like I remember you saying one time, how was your analogy about a car? And you can weigh your car, but it doesn't tell
Oh,
you
oh, the
what was
gas
that?
gauge in your, yeah, the gas gauge in your car. If it measured all the fluids in your car, you would never know if you needed gas or not. And that's what the scale is. It's an all-in-one gauge. It's measuring everything. So it really doesn't tell you what you're losing and what you're gaining. And you might be losing muscle mass, you might be dehydrated and celebrating that because the scale went down. And really, what you're celebrating is not being very healthy and not setting yourself up for a future of feeling and functioning better. And so fortunately body comp scales are becoming more and more, but I think also even those numbers, even
Mhm,
if you gain 5 pounds of muscle, you don't know if
mhm,
that muscle is functional or not, and
hmm,
even those scales are not 100% perfect. So I think I
hmm,
like what you're saying, is that how am I feeling, how am I functioning, how am I moving, which are so not tangible. And I think the lore of the scale is that it's so tangible. It's a number and we can compare it. And that comparison is so easy. Am I making progress?
yeah,
And it really does take us away from the real true goal. And that's why I like this concept of a blind spot. The blind spot is, what is this really about? What's in that blind spot that I need to see in order to
mhm,
get where I'm going, where I really want to go?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The analogy you said about the fluids in your car and the gas, that's fabulous. Because it's like it's a measurement, it tells us
Mhm.
something,
Yeah.
but, it's just important to have more measures than that.
Yeah.
And I would say another blind spot was, um, I was very informed and aware that you need to be getting enough protein and, not losing muscle mass.
Mm.
But when if the dosage, well, it makes me feel really bad. I don't feel like
Mm,
exercising.
yeah.
Uh, so don't to get blinded by that, like, oh, okay, well, but you're losing weight, or you're
Right.
not eating much, so that's good,
Yeah.
but it's like certainly the conclusion eventually of this is not how I want to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad that I brought that up to my
Mm,
providers
mm,
because it's like, no, we don't want you losing that weight either.
yeah.
And this is supposed to be a very slow process.
Mm,
And, it's okay that you might plateau or you may not see a whole lot of difference, or
mm.
it's definitely a longer game. And adjusting the dosage to um, feel, better.
Yeah. So really how you feel is the indicator of whether it's
Yes.
working or not. I know I've heard people say, I got a stomach virus and it was so great because I lost so much weight. Like we're so
Yes.
blinded by the scale that we think a stomach virus is great. And that's not fun.
Yeah.
And same thing with these medications. If you're feeling bad and you don't feel like eating, I've heard people say that too. It's great because I don't feel like eating. I'm so sick. And like we have become so blinded by the
Yeah.
whole point is to feel better. And I'm sure you have said this to your clients and said it to yourself. And I've said it to clients like, you could be very thin. Is that the goal to get down to the goal weight, but not feel and function better? And
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would really necessarily say that who is really, being honest with
Mhm.
themselves. What we ultimately want is to feel and function better.
Yes. And really paying attention to that so that
Mm,
I could make those adjustments. And I guess here's the other thing that just occurs to me is one of my primary goals was just to be able to move better,
mm,
to function,
yeah, yeah,
movement better.
yeah,
And I've been very happy to see that. So
yeah,
just the getting around in daily life.
yeah,
Um, so that was there,
yeah.
but not feeling like actually doing exercise. That
Mm,
that that was a big problem, and I had to,
mm,
recalibrate, or you have to work with this stuff
yeah,
to it's like it's not worth it if this is what it takes to get this
yeah,
weight off, to
yeah,
feel awful all the time.
yeah,
Um, do you have anything else that might work?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
this is
yeah.
really not sustainable. That's a good
Right.
word. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, if you have a stomach virus, okay, eventually you get over it, but
Yeah.
this is like, do you really want to be sick the rest of your freaking life?
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
to
Right.
make this work, it's like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like the real kind of core of this is that the scale will hijack us. Those numbers will hijack us. And when we're making those decisions in the stress state, we're going to miss a whole lot of really important information that our whole person knows. I think,
yes,
stress makes us kind of forget. We kind of
yes,
block off from our body and our heart. And we're like, I just have to get this thread away. And the thread is my body.
yeah,
So this kind of whole person approach and this, okay, what do I really need? I know I really want to lose weight. This is so hard. So I love how you're bringing in mindfulness and self compassion to this. Like, oh, weighing myself kind of hijacks me. All right, I've got to be mindful about how I'm weighing myself, be aware of how I want to move better. One strategy I do with patients and clients is, okay, list 3 things that you want to be able to do. Physical
mhm,
things, get up and down off the
mhm,
floor,
mhm,
walk a whole day in a city and sightsee, whatever that is, but list those things so that you've got some tangibles there that are,
yeah,
yes, I just got up off the floor without a problem. And the nice part is when they're physical goals like that, as an exercise scientist, I can tell you it doesn't matter what your weight is, your body can't help but get stronger. And if you're actually helping it to get those skills that it needs in a very gradual way. So you can
yes,
improve those skills without even losing weight and feel very successful.
yeah.
But wow, I haven't even gotten to my goal weight. And look at me. I'm doing these movements that I said was very important to me.
And I would say I could add in too, this
Mm,
reflects back to just my working with you originally and all the countering of the fitness culture mindset, the diet culture mindset, those things that it's like, so when I did return to exercising, getting
Mm,
back into, a routine,
mm,
um, I don't know that I would have been able to do that if I
mm,
hadn't done this work with you about the way that I approach exercise is
mm,
so different.
yeah.
So if I tried to force myself, no, that's a good word right there, to try to force myself back to the gym and do strength training,
Mhm,
in that driven,
yeah,
inner pusher, inner perfectionist, out of control way, it
yeah,
wouldn't have worked.
yeah,
It just wouldn't
yeah,
have worked. So thank goodness I had that in place so that, when I did get back on track,
yeah.
um, like I said, I don't think I would have been able to get back on track because I would have had that, you know,
Mhm,
Attila the
yeah,
Hun
yeah,
approach to it,
yeah,
that, extreme,
right.
it's like it wouldn't have happened. And then I'd really be in a bad place, wouldn't I?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think as you're talking, I'm thinking that just the awareness, just that moment of, oh, wait, this doesn't feel good. This is not where I want to go. Just the awareness that there's a blind spot there is such a rich opportunity, right? Because it allows you to say, no, this is not where I want to go. This is not what I want. And that moment, that wake up call is huge.
Yes.
And then it's recognizing, you know what, I've got some mindsets. And mindset is that brain body connection, right? It's like the thought, but how it's stored in our body and then how our body tells our brain what to do. And so rewiring those mindsets is not just thinking differently. It really is a whole different experience with these things, from getting on the scale to, how you set goals and how you think about this. So you're right. That fitness
Yeah.
mindset is really important to change. And I was thinking, having time with someone like you to sit down and say, all right, I'm on this new journey. But it's not just a journey like I just have to do the steps and do what I always did before. And it's not just a journey that I just drive and I set the GPS and I just go in that direction. It's not that kind of journey. It's a journey with a lot of detours and a lot of bumpy roads that you've got to navigate. And so having someone like you to navigate with it and to say, okay, what is this journey going to feel like? What do you want? What is this?
Mhm.
What do you
Yeah.
really want? And working with the coaching that I do in terms of exercise and really clarifying that, like having someone as a guide along the way is really helpful. That even just to have a moment, I think what you and I give people is a moment to sit down and plan out that journey and be very aware of the blind spots.
Yes, and I think that's a really important point you're bringing up about needing a guide, because once you understand what some of the concepts or the
Mm-hmm.
program,
Mm,
um, you can be pretty well assured that you're going to misunderstand something or get off somewhere and either just veer off and lose it,
yeah.
or you get stuck. And if you don't have someone to check in with,
Mm,
I find that in my work also, that I can, if I just hand you the program or the app or whatever
mhm,
the resource is, um, there's maybe, a few rare people on the planet that just could take it and run with it.
yeah.
But that's not what I'd experience, and it's not what I see. It is that regularly enough checking in to find
Mm,
like, well, I'm finding I'm not doing it. Oh, okay. And instead of either blaming yourself or the person that, or the resource,
yeah.
you know, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, what's going on? And then you can often readjust and
Yeah.
get back on track, or you misunderstood something, you interpreted, oh, I
Mm,
thought I was going to do this and it would make me stop. Like, no, actually, that's not how that works. Or, and definitely back to inner perfectionist and inner pusher, that we just expect ourselves to get such dramatic results so
mm,
quickly, and they last. They don't,
mm,
then they're solid. And it's like that is so not the journey. But if you don't have somebody to kind of that's really, you've been doing this for 2 days and you're really, impatient that
yeah.
or
You need a good,
you
honest
try
friend.
you tried that practice one time, and I have another I have another spot I can also add, though, if you'd like.
Yeah, sure, please.
I'm thinking about, I was talking about the exercise approach, the way that I do that at the gym. is, I go at a quiet time where,
Mm,
like I've said before, I make my strength training, it is like a meditation.
yeah,
But it
yeah,
does, I'm at there when there's not loud music blaring from an exercise class. It's
right.
quiet. There aren't a
Yeah,
lot of people around. That's one of the ways I make that work.
yeah,
And of course, if you get good enough at that, you could go into a busy, crowded gym and you could go into your own world and make it work. But
right.
at least in the beginning, or sometimes, it's setting that up. But the other blind spot I was going to mention was in group classes. In the
Mm,
group classes I'm
yes.
in, I can get blindsided or,
Mm,
go into a blind spot. And I had that happen recently where, and again, this is part of why you need someone helping you with your journey, because once I did take off a certain amount of weight, I'm feeling better, I'm functioning better, exercise is going well, then it's like, oh, well, I can do everything that, we're doing in the class now.
right,
Or
right.
it was really interesting seeing that expectation and that
Yeah.
awareness, like, oh, that's what you're doing. You think that, now that you're doing pretty well, here we go. And I was actually starting to strain. I had a little bit of uh, I guess you'd call it a strain or something, something to where my shoulder was unhappy
Yeah,
for a while.
yeah,
And it's like,
yeah,
you have to pay attention to
yeah,
your body.
yeah.
So what I did, so I just like, okay, you got to reset, go back.
Mm,
Don't just get into whatever they're saying, do it. And that number of reps, stay connected to your body. It's your
mm,
number of reps. It's your amount of weight that you should be, or the amount of resistance, you know? But
yes.
having to reset with that, that's kind of a process too, because, oh, now I've got to change my mindset or, now so anyway, here's a little example of how that played out though. So in one of the classes, one of the new things our instructor did was put a lot of extra resistance. And she said, this is a lot more resistance than you're used to,
Yeah.
for your legs, this is a lot more than we usually do. So just, but this is what we're going to do. And she put all this weight on, and it was, fortunately, it was kind of a smaller class that day and it was quieter. And I called her over and I said, I'm scared to put on all, and she walked over and said, you're scared? Yes, I'm scared to put on all of the weight, and it was just this kind of little joke. And
Yeah.
she was kind of like working with me. She said, well, okay, well, let's just try it, And so how's it going? I'm like, well, I don't know yet, but everybody around me is kind of laughing, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and then eventually though I did say, yes, I would like to take it some off.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
came over and took some off. So I
Yeah.
did about half of it and then
Right.
stopped and we took it off. And what I thought to myself is, every class needs a class wimp.
Well, you could
I am
label it a wimp
happy.
or a truth teller.
Yeah,
You were probably saying the
yeah,
truth, right? But you're right. Our culture would call it wimping out,
yeah,
but honestly, I'd call that bravery.
but see, I'm wearing it with pride.
Right. Right.
You
I
know,
think it's bravery.
I'm going to take on the mantle of,
Yeah.
hey, I'm the class wimp and I don't apologize for it because I
No.
take care of me.
Yeah. Truth teller. You're leading the way in a way that you're allowing yourself to be truthful and saying what everyone else is thinking and even naming the emotion. I'm scared. To be able
Yes,
to say that out loud in an exercise class is like so counterculture. You go, Jan, you go. As you're, I know we have to wrap up because both of us have to go, but I want to, as you're saying this, I had this like, aha, I would love to hear your thought. I think this is a nice way to talk about this blind spot that we're going to do another talk on this, but that our blind spot requires us to close our eyes to what we're seeing so we can listen to what we're feeling.
yes.
So we need to get blind to what we're seeing to actually
Ah,
see the blind spot that our
yes,
body is actually trying to tell us. But it's the visuals, I think, seeing the scale, seeing other people, seeing this, seeing that. I think
yes.
the visual takes us external. And if we close our eyes and can just listen to our body.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's a fabulous way to end.
Yeah.
And let's start with that in the next talk because
Okay.
that is so there's so much to do with that.
Right. All right. This is good because then what I would
Yeah.
like to say to our listeners and for you and I, because we always bring in our own personal examples of this, and
Yes.
is what happens when you close your eyes? Do you open up? What's the blind spot that gets revealed that you can now feel and see inside
Yeah.
because you're feeling it? Yeah. So for our listeners, I'd love you guys to think about that, and we're going to bring in our own, and feel free to put in the comments in the in this posting
Yeah.
about how the blind spot plays out and how you feel your way out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is great. I can't
Good.
wait to pick
Thank
up
you,
with this
Jan.
next time. Okay.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Awesome.
You're
Okay.
very
Thanks,
welcome.
Jan. We'll talk soon.
Okay, great. Bye now.
Bye.